Tellico Village is a planned community located in Loudoun and Monroe Counties, Tennessee. The village is overseen by the Property Owners Association, Inc., POA, which is a nonprofit organization governed by a volunteer elected board of directors. The day-to-day management is vested in the POA Chief Executive Officer and staff. The POA board and staff are supported by a very active and knowledgeable committee infrastructure. Tellico Village Network is producing a series of videos on the various committees and the dedicated volunteers serving on them. Phil Brenner will open our segment and set the stage for today's topics.
In our segment today, we are going to provide an update on the Tellico Village Master Land Use Plan. First, let's talk about why we need a Master Land Use Plan. When the village was originally plotted, roads and residential lots were laid out. Cooper Communities, our original developer, immediately built a few amenities, such as the Tokwa Golf Course and the Chota Rec Center. Some areas were designated for commercial or recreational use, but there was not an overall comprehensive land use plan taking us into the future. With the recent acquisition of additional land from Cooper, the Board of Directors gave the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee the goal of developing a master land use plan. Presenting in this segment from the LRPAC will be members Ed Grolleman, Tom McChrystal, and Dominic Andriana. Also presenting is Beth Kuberka, Chief Development, Marketing, and Communications Officer for the POA. These are the folks who spent a lot of time researching and developing the plan that was presented to the POA board. Ed, Tom, and Dominic were on the Land Use Subcommittee, and they worked with Beth of the POA staff to develop a plan. First, Ed will explain the purpose of the plan.
The purpose of the plan was to give us a roadmap for how we might use specific parcels of land in the future. In 2021, the POA was presented the opportunity to buy out the remaining Cooper Communities land rights, acquiring over 200 acres. Had we not done that, Cooper could have sold to another investor and the POA would not have jurisdiction on the land use. Today, the POA currently owns over 400 acres in the village. While some of this is boundary land in small parcels, many individual parcels exceeded 4 acres. It was decided we needed a roadmap for how to best use the land. In the past, various ideas have been floated, some even renderings of things that might be done. As you can imagine, some of these set false expectations as to the reality of those ideas. And almost all those ideas are now dated or obsolete. So it was time for a reset.
The 400 acres now owned by the POA are distributed throughout the village. You can see on these maps where much of the POA-owned land is located. The biggest parcel is the Kahidi Golf Course, which the POA owns. The Tanasi and Tokwa golf courses are on TRDA land, or known better as Tellico Reservoir Development Agency. We are in a lease to buy agreement with TRDA.
We approached this plan by focusing on POA-owned parcels of at least 1 acre. We excluded plotted residential lots and the golf courses since their use is already determined. We also excluded parcels leased from the Tellico Reservoir Development Agency, except for any that are actively used by the POA, such as the Public Works site on Davis Ferry Road. Our committee members physically walked many of the significant parcels. We also used online resources such as the Tennessee Property Viewer website. And of course, we worked with Beth Kuberka and others on the POA staff and board to help formulate the land use plan. In the end, we designated POA land into one of 5 categories. Dominic will describe those 5 categories used by our Long Range Planning Advisory Committee.
So the 5 categories of land use are recreational, development, that used by the POA, commercial, and finally residential. Let me give you a better description of each item. Recreational is that which is used for hiking trails, park space, bike paths, and or other possible recreational amenities. Development is possible residential development of parcels with no existing infrastructure such as roads, utility connections, sewer and water, etc. POA parcels are used by the POA departments. A good example is the public work site on Davis Ferry Road. This includes land that TRDA has, as well as a parcel used by the Tellico Village Fire Department. Commercial are parcels leased to others. For example, the business at Chota Village Square behind the Welcome Center. And finally, residential are parcels which could be subdivided into residential lots and will not need any significant additional infrastructure.
Here are some sample pages from the plan. As you can see, we present an aerial view that shows boundaries and adjacent properties, the number of acres, the current use, and proposed use. It is high level by design. We can think about the master land use plan as a zoning map. It outlines the expected type of use for parcels of land, but does not recommend any particular use within any category. The development category is a possible way to recoup some of the funds used to purchase the land from Cooper. Beth Kuberka is overseeing that opportunity.
When the POA bought out Cooper Communities, we acquired over 200 acres that Cooper owns, along with developer rights. The purchase price was $5.3 million. We made a down payment of $1.325 million and financed the balance of $3.975 million with a five-year note. It is the intention of the POA to pay down the note with proceeds from land development sales of selected parcels. There are 3 parcels that have been identified for possible development. The first, designated P38, is 37 acres located at the north end of the village along Poplar Ridge Road. Villagers will know that as the area near the Poplar Springs boat launch. The other 2 parcels, designated P1 and P4, are located in Kahidi. The first is between Kahidi Block 3, the golf course, and the lake, and the final parcel is on the southwest corner of Kahidi on the Corntassel extension of the lake. A request for proposal has been sent out to over 18 builders and developers. The RFPs require the developer to install all infrastructure, and some of the items that we requested are multifamily units with sidewalks and green space. Once the RFPs are received, they will be reviewed first by staff, and any favorable proposal will be brought to the Board of Directors for consideration.
In a survey conducted by Long Range Planning Committee, some villagers expressed concern over the growth of the village. It is important to remember that Tellico Village is a planned community and was plotted for a total of nearly 6,900 homes at build-out. The roads, water, and sewer infrastructure were designed around that. However, originally, Cooper planning assumptions envisioned a weekend and vacation community with small homes or cabins and part-time residents. But because of many desirable attributes of the village, it was evolved into a year-round active lifestyle community for larger homes. So, some of the planning assumptions differ from today's realities. That's why Long Range Planning Committee looks at the infrastructure, and other committees like Public Service Advisory Committee continue to study our water and sewer needs and recommend improvements to meet our needs in the future. It's also why the RFPs that Beth Kuberka discussed included requirements for prospective developer to invest in the infrastructure needed to support the development.
I don't think villagers realize how much green space we have. Of the more than 400 acres covered by this master land use plan, 70% has been designated recreational. Only 17% has been identified for development.
I want to thank Ed, Tom, Dominic, and all of the members of the Long Range Planning Advisory Committee for the work that they did in developing this master land use plan. And I'd like to thank Beth Kuberka and the POA staff for their ongoing help and cooperation as we worked on it. I think that Tom got it right when he pointed out that the plan is like a zoning map. Broad uses are suggested, but the plan does not recommend specific placement of potential future amenities. The LRPAC recommends that all future initiatives that require the use of POA land be checked against this plan. Specific requests should include supporting information such as use justification, surveys, renderings, cost estimates, impact assessments, potential benefits, and more. Ultimately, any future land use will require the approval and funding from the POA Board of Directors with adequate input from village property owners. But creating this roadmap was an important first step in managing how we use the land owned by the POA. As always, I remind property owners that there are many ways that they can stay informed. First, read the Master Land Use Plan that's posted on Teleco Life. Attend advisory committee meetings. Attend board meetings and town halls, or you can watch them live on TVN or on demand on YouTube. And certainly read the weekly telegram to stay informed about important topics in Teleco Village. Informed and engaged property owners are a vital part of making Teleco Village such a great place to live.
More information about all of the POA advisory committees and when they meet can be found on the members-only POA website under Governance. Thank you for watching Teleco Village Network, your lens on what's happening in and around Teleco Village.